calling from the Atmos Digital Studio here in Fresno. This is the Beem and Dean Show, episode 83, with the sports director of KSEE24 and CBS47, Scott Bemis. I'm Dean Shiro. Happy Martin Luther King Day, everybody. We are here live on a Monday. We got a lot of basketball action. We got the national championship game tonight in college football, and we will review the 4 playoff games that happened over the weekend. So, Scott, how was your weekend, real quick?
Weekend, it's busy like always with the Sunday Bulldog Insider, but a lot of football to watch. I had some basketball to watch with my not only college basketball, right, but watching my son play some basketball. Rec League is underway in Clovis, so that was kind of fun.
Go Coop!
To watch there. And at the Bulldog game on Saturday, I didn't have a chance to be there myself, but my wife was there with my daughter, who took part in Spirit Fest. So she was out there with all those kids, at halftime doing the cheerleading stuff. So
that's good.
Yeah, so it was a fun weekend for the Bemis family as a whole.
Nice. All right. Well, like I said, pretty low key here. Just trying to stay, out of the fog, as much as possible. Stay home. So we got some NFL coaching news that happened this morning. Sean McDermott was fired in Buffalo, and Kevin Stefanski was hired yesterday for the Atlanta Falcons. Any thoughts on those 2 openings?
Well, my first thought is we've talked about it before. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and I will be super interested to see how this ultimately works out with the Buffalo Bills, because, do you put a ton of blame on Sean McDermott for the way their season ended on Sunday? I don't. And
yeah.
He's been a consistent winner there in Buffalo. He fits that market, the culture of the Buffalo Bills. I think he's a good fit for it. He's been to the playoffs, I think, 6 or 7 straight seasons, something like that. They've won a playoff game, actually, in 6 straight seasons.
Right.
So we've talked about it before. Sometimes if you don't win a title, you got to be careful not to overreact. And just judging it based solely on whether you win a championship, I would not have let Sean McDermott go. Also because he, by all indications, has a great relationship with Josh Allen. Maybe there's something going on there that I don't know about, but you saw a couple Buffalo Bills players immediately go to social media and say, what's going on? This is ridiculous, kind of thing, kind of sign of the times, a little reactionary here. And I found it kind of ironic that Sean McDermott's up there at the mic after the game talking about
fighting for Buffalo,
the controversial call, and he's fighting for the city of Buffalo.
They didn't fight back for him.
They didn't.
Yeah, Scotty, really quick on this thing. Don't you think Sean McDermott's going to be just like John Harbaugh? He'll be snatched up instantly.
Yeah.
He will not be on the unemployment line for more than...
If I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I'm wondering why I had to pull the trigger so quickly on Stefanski and didn't wait maybe a couple days so I could interview Sean McDermott.
Not a bad hire on Stefanski, though, going to Atlanta. I think, his resume is very good.
I'm not knocking Stefanski. I'm just saying, now that Sean McDermott's available...
Right. But if you're another team that's got an opening right now, you're like, ooh, this looks pretty good.
Right,
including the Baltimore Ravens, possibly.
Yeah, that might not be a bad fit. That might
another
not be
team that's defensive based, right?
Yeah, no, it might not be a bad fit.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching. I woke up to this news. Had a tough time sleeping last night, but woke up. So I was awake at like 6:30 in the morning, and they had Get Up on ESPN, and you had Rex Ryan on there talking about Bill Belichick. That he would be the perfect fit for this job. And he also mentioned, I think, that Brian Daboll still lives in Buffalo, apparently.
Okay.
There's an offensive guy, right? Obviously, Daboll has a great relationship, you would think, with Josh Allen from their time together, him as the OC in Buffalo and Josh Allen as the quarterback. But I kind of put myself in the shoes of some of these Buffalo Bills players, and specifically like Josh Allen as well, who already was taking the loss super hard, which is to be expected.
Right.
But then, for your coach to get fired, now you feel like you cost somebody their job as well. And it's part of the business. I'm not overreacting. I'm just saying I'm going to be super intrigued to see. I don't know if it's going to work out better or not, for the Bills. My only thought would be the Bills, in my opinion, were the better team against the Broncos, on Saturday, right? They played on Saturday?
Yes.
Correct. Gosh, all the days are running into each other now.
Yeah.
But they were the better team. In my opinion, they controlled the flow of play. They were more physical. Probably should have won that game if it wasn't for the turnovers and some weird stuff that happened late. So, do you are set up already to be a Super Bowl contender?
Right.
Okay, I would run it back. I would run it back again. Josh Allen isn't even 30 yet, right? You've got a great infrastructure there. You're taking a chance by bringing somebody in from the outside. My only point being that obviously, ultimately, you're judged by the scoreboard. But there are other things to judge it by as well. And if they went into Denver, and in my opinion, they were the more physical team. They controlled the flow of play for most of that game. Mm-hmm. The turnovers hurt, obviously. Yeah. They were killers.
Yeah.
But still, after all was said and done, they had the ball and a chance to win the game, and something weird kind of happens, and your season ends. And now you're going to go in a completely different direction with your organization? I don't know. It seems a little reactionary to me.
All right, we'll save the rest of our NFL talk for the end. Let's come in hot. All right, Scotty, 2 topics today for coming in hot. This is where we have a passionate take on something, whether positive or negative. We're going to start with here in Fresno State men's basketball. They hired Vance Wahlberg, hoping for a different culture, a different style of play. Hasn't got off to the greatest of starts for Mr. Wahlberg and the boys. So have we seen enough positive things from the Fresno State men's basketball team to possibly extend Wahlberg's contract? I'll pose that to you.
Well, the reason that I bring this up is that they're coming off a great week for them, or at least their best week of the Wahlberg era. Still a ways to go, right, as a program to get that program where I'm sure Vance wants to get it to. But they go 2-0, especially the win over Colorado State at home, an impressive win where you win by double digits.
Right.
And then you beat like a Wyoming team that's in the bottom half of the conference, but has been very competitive in Mountain West play so far this season. I think at some point you're going to need to make a decision one way or another, Dean, is my point here. And as opposed to kind of keeping it like hanging out there, right? Because like he's kind of a lame duck coach, it seems like at this point, right? Everybody's kind of assuming that, that he could be let go possibly at the end of the year if things go sour. But if things go the other way and they start to show signs of progress, maybe it's time to show a little bit more of a commitment to him. At this point, especially with some of the things that Vance has done that I think, doesn't get publicized as much, that the fact that I've heard from several reliable sources that he's basically contributing his own money from his own salary, like into the NIL pool, and we know what Fresno means to Vance Wahlberg. And obviously it's always a case of if you were going to go in a different direction eventually with who would be out there and who could you get, but a constantly rotating string of coaches never does a program any good. And so I think this team, they're back to 500 overall on the season. They're 3-4 in the Mountain West. Maybe not right now. You don't need to extend them. Maybe you wait a couple more weeks. But I think if they continue, to hover around 500 in Mountain West play, I think that's a sign that he's moving this program in the right direction. And some of the coaches that he's brought on as well, I think is a big thing here. The fact that, John Welch is on his staff, right? The fact that Tyler Johnson is now back in the fold on his staff.
Right.
And I think Vance, at least from some of the alumni I talked to, has done a good job of kind of bringing some of those guys back into the fold, and they're a little bit more involved than they were before. It was just kind of out of sight, out of mind before. Now they're a little more involved with the program. And so maybe not right now, Dean, but I think eventually, if they keep hovering around 500, I think that's a good goal. Can Fresno State finish at 500 in the Mountain West after going 6-26 a year ago?
Right.
And at that point, you're showing progress. And if you're showing progress, then I think you need to show at least some kind of commitment to him going forward.
Yeah, I think progress is the key, Scotty. I am not well versed on this subject at all. I'm not going to claim to be. I know what Vance has done in the coaching realm. I know who his friends are. I know he's got a great a network. Calipari's on his speed dial. He's got guys that he's worked with or worked, in conjunction with. In terms of here in Fresno, I think progress needs to be seen. I think attendance is a big deal. What kind of interest does he draw? Obviously he's gone heavy into the international pool. I do know that. Will that pay off for him as opposed to, more domestic players, maybe local guys? He does have the small black eye of the betting scandal, kind of under his belt.
Sure.
But I'm not saying he's responsible for it, but it is his watch, so, everything falls close to the tree, right? So he's got to address that.
Yeah.
So I'll let you follow up.
No, I was just going to say, I think ultimately what we're saying here is that maybe it's not, we don't need to kind of give Vance Wahlberg some kind of commitment going forward a little bit beyond this year right now, but I think that needs to start getting onto Fresno State's radar, and it probably is, to be honest. Now, the one thing too that we failed to mention is that Vance wasn't hired by the current athletic director.
That was my question. I wasn't sure if he was or not. I don't believe he was. Right?
He had not.
Was he a Toomey hire or was he a Sandoval hire? Or?
He was basically a Sandoval hire.
Right?
Toomey
he was hired by the president
Toomey
of the
had
university.
been let go shortly before that, and they had not brought on Garrett Classy yet.
So Sandoval was the guy who kind of spearheaded that hire, probably with help.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing enough of him that if you were going to go with the Vance Wahlberg hire, and you're going to, 2 years ago, if you're President Sandoval, well, he's done enough, I think, to kind of see it through on some level. Okay. And to me, that more than 2 years, 2 years is not enough to see something through and see if it really was the right decision or not.
Okay. All right, let's go to college football really quick. We got the national championship game tonight, which we'll talk about in just a second, Miami versus Indiana. But the main issue we're going to get to, Scotty, again, not only are we talking possibly about a 16-team playoff, we might jump all the way to 24 teams now. I know how you kind of feel about this. I'll let you remind the viewers how you feel about it. It looks like that the two major conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, have not they've been kind of haven't agreed on this, but 24 teams is a possibility. So obviously, why don't you give the audience your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I feel like a broken record on this, but I don't like it. I don't like 24. That's too many. It starts to you start to dilute the product. You dilute the regular season. If you do that, and I'm appreciative of the SEC kind of hanging tough and not just acquiescing, to the Big Ten, who apparently wants guarantees on there being a 24-team playoff, in 3 years or something like that. It sounds like they're also going to take a look at the conference title games and do some tweaks to that.
Calendar, when the season starts, there's all kinds of things that kind of.
But when you hear 24, doesn't that seem like too
many?
It's
a lot. It's more. I thought 16 was the perfect number, and I know you and I kind of disagreed on that. I knew you were even okay with 8 compared to 12. We're at 12 now, but the only thing I'll say, I'll acquiesce on this a little bit, and other people have too. I love the games at college sites for these playoff games.
Sure, yeah.
If we can get more of those, I'm good with that. 24 is a big number. 24 is a big number, just like 128 is a huge number for basketball, which they're possibly talking about at some point. I'm surprised that it's taken the college presidents this long, though, because of the revenue that you can generate from these extra games. The college presidents, for the longest time, were adamant on just a 4-team playoff. So the fact that, these conferences now have kind of taken control, as opposed to the college presidents, you could kind of see where this is kind of going. But it's going to be interesting. So, we'll see what happens, Scott. I mean, I think it's inevitable. But
before I move on, I just want to give us both props for both getting the word acquiesce into this episode of the Beem and Dean Show.
Absolutely.
We did not acquiesce to getting acquiesce in the show. No, we made sure to get it in there.
We did not consult with each other before the show, ladies and gentlemen. We will promise you that on that topic. Let's get to this game tonight, So you've got Miami hosting Indiana. Yes, I said hosting Indiana. Indiana is still about a 7.5-point favorite. They have blown everybody out so far in this college football playoff. Miami has done a great job going from the last team in to winning at College Station, beating Ohio State, and then, they're in the championship game now. So what are your thoughts on this game tonight?
Well, I feel like the entire world is picking Indiana. I've seen a couple people here and there, on the Miami side. Always makes me a little nervous for the Indiana Hoosiers when it seems like it's just a sure thing, right? And they're going to get it done in the way they've looked. Look, I love Indiana. I love the way they've been playing. I hope for a competitive game, and I think Miami will be able to keep this competitive, into the fourth quarter. It will be super interesting to see what the crowd makeup is like there. We've talked about it before, but is it going to be 80-20 Indiana? Is it going to be 60-40 Indiana? Are the Miami fans
50-50
Are the
maybe?
Miami fans suddenly going to show up in droves, and make it more of a home game? It's always scary when you're picking against a team that has a really solid defense, right?
Right.
And that's what Miami has, and they have some next level guys on that defensive front, and they've been really solid in the college football playoff, and they handled a Big Ten team in Ohio State already in this playoff. An Ohio State team that was beaten by Indiana in the Big Ten championship, but that was a very tightly contested game. And so like I mentioned, Miami needs to get off to a good start in this game if they want to have an opportunity to pull the upset. They need to put a little game pressure on Indiana. Indiana hasn't felt that yet in the playoffs.
Right. You can't fall behind 14-0. You just can't. You absolutely cannot fall behind if you're Mario Cristobal. You've got to try to control the ball, keep it away from Indiana, really. They're playmakers too. But that defense has been so unsung this year. You know, they started that game against Alabama in the Rose Bowl, and I thought Alabama had chances to move the ball on Indiana, and then at the end of the day, it's 38.
Sure.
So I mean, I thought Oregon had a chance to kind of do some damage against Indiana, and then you got the pick six, and then all of a sudden it's a blowout city. So it's gonna be very interesting. I'm curious to see the dynamics of the crowd too, because I know these Indiana people are doing everything they can, to make it Bloomington East, So.
And obviously it's exciting. Dean and I, huge college football fans.
Yes.
So we're going to be watching the national championship game no matter when it is or where it is.
Sure.
But in a weird way, right? The Monday after divisional NFL, playoff weekend.
The 19th of January.
It gets kind of lost, right? In a way. And it's like, sure, they're going to get numbers for this game, but those numbers are not going to compare at all to the NFL, and I'm sure the NFL is going to beat them, from over the weekend.
Did you see that the numbers for the semifinals were down from the previous year? They were down. They were down. So, it's going to be interesting. I think Indiana, great story. Obviously, I'm pulling for Indiana. I'd love to see the little guy finally get one with this NIL and transfer portal. To see a team kind of that still sings the darn fight song, Scotty. I'm going to stay passionate on this. I don't want to see just a bunch of rogue guys who are coming in just to play football and not get their education. I think college football is in a bad spot right now. I'd like to see Indiana win this game to kind of right the ship a little bit. So any prediction on the game from you?
All right, here are my final thoughts. I will predict Indiana.
He has a play on it, by the way, folks. We'll show it in a minute.
Yeah, I'm halfway through a teaser play, and so I have Indiana back down under a field goal in this game, and so I'm rooting for them to get that play home. Ultimately, why I would pick Indiana, just if I'm just picking the game straight up, is that I trust Fernando Mendoza more than I trust Carson Beck. And I think, all other things being equal, ultimately I'm going to lean towards Mendoza, who's been pretty much
rock solid,
perfect and efficient in the college football playoff.
Sure.
And, Carson Beck still at times, has some great moments, and then, you're like, whoa, what was that throw right there?
Right.
And so I would lean towards the quarterback that I trust more, and in my opinion, that's Mendoza.
Yep, the Heisman Trophy winner definitely is going to be on the biggest stage of the world tonight. All right, let's get to these 4 NFL playoff games over the weekend. We'll just kind of summarize each one really quick. So let's talk about the Broncos for a minute. They win a huge game. We've already talked about the Bills, but the Broncos win the game in the second or third to last play of the game. I don't know what they were doing at that stage, but Bo Nix decides to take the ball, and he's running, and he breaks his ankle.
Nice.
And all of a sudden now you're down to Jared Stidham as your starting quarterback in the AFC Championship game, Scott. I don't know if you've seen the line, but it shifted it shifted badly. So your thoughts really quick on the Broncos win and their path forward.
What a shame, right? What a shame. Yeah, I mean, just as fans, you hate to see this, and we're kind of seeing it's just such a war of attrition to get through the NFL playoffs. You pop up and there's another headline about this guy banged up or possibly questionable or missing time. It's so hard to get to the finish line healthy when not only are you playing a 17-game regular season, but then you're going to add 3 or 4 playoff games, into that mix for the teams that ultimately, get to the Super Bowl.
Sure.
I mean, what a shame. I was sitting there, I was watching TV, and then suddenly, the Broncos win, and it's like an hour later, and suddenly it pops up on the bottom line Sean Payton announces Bo Nix out for the season, and you're like, what? Was he just doing a post-game interview?
Yes, I was just going to say that. In the post-game interview, he's all excited. He doesn't look like he's got a broken ankle. Now, they showed shots of him grimacing on the sideline before that, but I thought it was just bumps and bruises. I didn't realize it was a season-ending ankle injury. He's having surgery tomorrow. So anyway, interesting dynamic there. 49ers and Seahawks, I mean, that game was kind of over before it started. The 49ers injuries finally came, succumbed them basically. They had survived them for weeks at a time, but no Kittle, no defensive guys. They're down to their 4-string linebackers, and they just couldn't generate anything against a really good Seattle Seahawks team. Now the Seahawks have lost to Zach Charbonnet for this game against the Rams.
Yeah, that's what I saw this morning when I was referencing. Yeah. I mean, it's just...
So now they're down to Kenneth Walker Jr. basically as their running back against the Rams. But your thoughts on the Seahawks really quick and the Niners?
Well, I don't think at this point in the season losing one running back is that big a deal as long as you have another quality back. Now, where it becomes a big deal
is if you don't.
Is if Kenneth Walker goes out with an injury, right? Then it becomes a really big deal, right? And sure, you'd love to have your full complement of players because that's what you had all year. You've built your offense around that, all that stuff. But I think having Kenneth Walker still in the fold, that's kind of your go-to guy anyways at the running back position, shouldn't be that huge of a loss for Seattle unless, like I said, Walker goes down.
Yeah, if you have a two-headed monster, at least you still have one head left, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I mean, I haven't gotten a ton right in the NFL, Dean. I mean, I've been kind of struggling here over the last month or two to kind of peg things right in the NFL. But one thing I did get right was I did predict Seattle in this game.
Yes, you did. We'll show it in a minute.
I thought that time was kind of running out on the Niners in the sense of just how long could they keep this up with the amount of injuries that they were suffering.
Sure.
And eventually, kind of like with the Bears, I said, hey, is their luck going to run out, right?
Yeah.
Now, it looked like maybe it wasn't, and then it was.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second. But yeah, so anyway, Texans at Patriots, a really defensive, the first half, interception, turnover. In the end, Drake May did just enough. The running game, they finally gave the ball to Rondre Stevenson, who's been really workhorse all year. I had a couple of fantasy plays on him. I was hoping they'd give him the ball because I just knew he's going to produce. So in that key drive to wrap the game up, he got 7 or 8 carries there. But Patriots now move on. Now they head to Denver. Drake May, it's probably going to be chilly. They're used to cold weather. What are your thoughts on this game and the Texans?
Well, these two teams, Texans and Patriots, they were treating this like the holiday season. It's better to give
than receive.
Than it is to receive. I mean, what a weird game, right? And what has happened to C.J. Stroud? Dean?
I don't know.
Well, you remember him as a rookie? I mean, I was like, oh, wow, here we go. Franchise quarterback. This guy's going to be a Pro Bowler year in and year out. And it's just kind of all falling apart. Now, I know he didn't have Collins in this game, right, Nico?
No, he didn't. But he didn't use his legs at all. I mean, he's been known for being able to get out of the pocket and make things happen. He just kind of sat back there and threw picks. I mean, even Caleb Williams in the first half against the Rams wasn't using his legs. The second half, he started using his legs, and look what happened. They started producing. Yeah. But C.J. Stroud, I agree.
Yeah, well, then you look at from the Patriots' point of view. I mean, they're super lucky to still be alive in the playoffs when you consider how much they've turned it over in these first two games.
Right.
If I bet if you had asked Mike Vrabel going into the playoffs that you're going to turn the ball over however many times they did against the Chargers, and then what'd they have 4 turnovers or something like that yesterday.
But I mean, being at home's been the key though.
But they've been able to overcome it. But my point being that. You're not going to be able to continue to overcome this. But yeah, you're getting another break because the Broncos don't have Bo Nix.
But you still have to go on the road now.
You're going to have to get. And if you're thinking about winning a Super Bowl, I mean, I think what we're seeing with Drake May, and I love Drake May. He's going to be great. I'm a big fan of him, and his future's so bright and everything else. 2 things here. One, we're seeing he's still a young quarterback. He's still hanging onto the ball a little bit too long in the pocket, especially against a defense like the Texans when you're in a playoff game and turnovers are going to be such a big deal, right? But then what we're also seeing is that this Patriots team is way more than Drake May, right? These last 2 games have proven that. I mean, this is an all-around football team, right? And they've learned how to win, and I don't care what your schedule is. When you're in the NFL and you've won however many 16 of the last 17, 17 of the last 18. I don't know what the stat is off top, but I know they've something like that, right?
Yeah.
And the only loss was the Buffalo game that they kind of gave away at home. When you learn how to win, you expect to win. And there's something to that. There's something to just, going out on the field and thinking, you know what? No matter what happens here, whether we turn it over 4 times, this and that, we're going to find a way to win.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing right now. And so they get a huge break here, with the Bronco thing. But I'm always a little cautious. I always say beware of the backup quarterback, especially in that first game scenario.
You don't know what you're getting. You have no tape. You got nothing.
And the rest of that locker room, they're going to rally big time
they have no choice.
Around him. So
we're in the AFC Championship, Scotty. I mean, we're going to Denver, Colorado. So, so let's get to this last game really quick because we got to get to our money plays. But Rams at Bears. The Rams survive bad coaching. That's what Sean McVay said. And the cold and the thicker kicker. My man Mevis gets it done finally with bad special teams. Special teams last night were very good for the Rams. I got to give them credit there, except for the one punt. That was really bad. But nothing blocked and, no field goals blocked. Everything was made. So the Rams now head to Seattle. Thoughts?
What was your reaction? Were you watching at home?
I was going nuts, yes. I was going nuts. Julie and I were so excited. I was so disappointed, though, on that fourth down play. I mean, it's Magic Caleb Williams, though. I mean,
gosh.
we've seen him at USC do this 1,000 times. He goes 20 yards backwards, scrambling, throws it off his back foot, 50 yards in the air, and hits a wide open Cole Kmet. I don't know how Cole Kmet got up that wide open. It looked like there was a small push off, but, not enough. It was a great play.
That play by itself demonstrates both the brilliance of Caleb Williams, but it also demonstrates sort of the problem with Caleb Williams at the same time.
Right.
Because keep in mind, it's 4th and 4, Dean.
Right.
It's not like it's 4th and goal from the 30 or something.
This is it. This is the game.
But meaning you only need 4 yards.
I know, but it's the
right,
game.
Right. And so he, instead of kind of looking underneath or this and that or quick slant, his immediate instinct is to, run vertically backwards.
Run vertically backwards with your head going the opposite way, by the way. And then he finally turns around.
And it worked out, and that's why he's fun to watch,
right.
and he's super talented, right?
Yeah.
But it's like eventually, maybe take the easier route to get the first down there in that situation. But what a play. I mean, look, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for the Rams. I grew up a Ram fan. Yep. I mean, I still get a little connection to seeing them when they're in their uniforms.
Orange County days.
Yeah, not as hardcore as I once was, but in a weird way, it is kind of sad that play didn't eventually result in a win.
But it sums up the Miracle Bears,
as far as the history of the NFL goes, right? Because sure, he made that play, but they weren't able to finish it off, with the victory. So in a weird way, it kind of gets discounted on a small degree.
Well, the Rams avenged 1985. Everyone who remembers that game, Dieter Brock and the snow, the Ice Bowl. But the Rams get the win. Now they head to Seattle. Let's get to our money plays. All right, Scott, you have about 3 minutes left in the show. I just want to kind of show. So the Rams actually severely helped me, as you can see by the bottom part of the parlay. The soccer did absolutely nothing for me. The 3 favorites did not come through. But that last one was the key one there. Broncos, Seahawks, Patriots, and the Bears plus 3.5. The Rams did not have a lead at halftime, which shocked the heck out of me. But then I hit a parlay with Patriots, Rams. So I'm still over. I'm at 1166. Scotty's got one play, and he's going to give one right now. So go for it.
Yeah, so again, we start with $1,000 of fictitious money. Each month we have a contest between me and Dean who can end up with more cash at the end of the month in our balance. As you can see, I'm down a little bit, but I've been kind of building it back up. Got off to a rough start. Got this teaser still alive tonight. To win 70 here with Indiana minus 2.5. A little nervous that a lot of the wise guys apparently are coming in on the Canes.
I think you're good.
Didn't have time to give Dean the pick to write it up.
Go for it.
But I am going to give you one college basketball play. I like doing... I've been doing some 5-point teasers in the college basketball
they've been working
ranks,
for you.
and I've been having a modicum of success. And so this was a quick glance look at it. Not a huge card tonight in college basketball, but I did see Providence getting 1.5 at Marquette. Marquette's been kind of disappointing this year. Providence, all they do is play close games.
So we're going to make it 5.5, 6.5?
So we're going to make it 6.5 with Providence.
Okay.
And then also tomorrow, Purdue will be on the back-to-back of the West Coast trip.
I have this play.
After playing at USC.
You going to go UCLA plus 10.5?
I'm grabbing the Bruins. It's kind of a must-win for Mick Cronin's guys if they want to kind of be in the conversation, going forward for the NCAA tournament and the Big Ten race. And I think Purdue, that back-to-back West Coast game can sometimes be a little tricky for those teams coming from the Midwest.
USC, by the way, too.
Yeah, so Providence up to 6.5, UCLA up to 10.5, minus 130 on that. I'll do 39 to win 30.
Look at my number 8. I just have UCLA plus 5.5 against Purdue.
I don't mind that either. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, UCLA and Pauley Pavilion with Mick Cronin. I just didn't, after coming off a bad loss to Ohio State, I think they're going to get that done. I got a bunch of other plays. We got some Martin Luther King basketball today. You'll see some of that there. I got Indiana minus 6.5. I bought it down to 6.5 against Miami tonight. So for $25 to win 15. A couple NHL plays, and I've got a play for tomorrow night. Give me Clemson minus 3.5 versus NC State. This is college basketball. Arkansas minus 1.5 against Vandy, and Texas Tech minus 1.5 at Baylor. So anything, Scotty, before we got to go? We got about 30 seconds.
I like what you're thinking on some of those college basketball plays right there. Clemson, maybe one of the more underrated teams in the country at this point, just blew the doors off a pretty good Miami team, over the weekend. Been watching a lot of college hoops, and so you'll probably be seeing some college basketball plays coming from me going forward. Looking forward to the NCAA title game tonight. Should be fun. Hoping for a good game that comes out of the wire.
Scotty and I will be back on Thursday. We'll recap that and get our NFL picks for the weekend. This has been the Beem and Dean Show.